This just in, breaking news. Wait, how's it go again? The biggest story, that one's first. Okay, I know it's been a while. I mean, it has been a while. It's been months since we've done the last news episode, but it was time to talk about the news. I know what you're thinking. Doug doesn't have time for this shit anymore. He spends all of his time making one poker hands video every 3 weeks. But enough is enough, because we got some big stories that we gotta talk about. Our topics today include a $25,000 tournament winner winning $5 million and tipping $0 on his victory, the New York Poker Kings poker room not paying out its players, Pokerstars increasing their rake again, and an Eli Elezra Ask Me Anything that went sour. It's gonna be a good day for poker news. But before we jump into today's episode, I want to let you know that Upswing Poker has its new module out. The module is done by myself and Ryan Fee, where we look at solvers across many different board textures and get people ready to implement these strategies into their own game. Poker solvers can be tricky to use, and so myself and Fees break it down in a way where you can actually start to implement some of these strategies into your game. So if you are a small to mid-stakes poker player, I'd strongly recommend checking out the Upswing Poker Lab. I'll put a link in the description below. Okay, now that I'm done shamelessly plugging my own products, let's jump into some news. I want to start off today by talking about this tip incident that happened after the $25,000, whatever they're calling it in PCA, where essentially a player who won a free $30,000 package over to the Bahamas went there and ended up taking down the tournament for $5 million. The player in question is Raymond Kalilis. I also want to quickly note that I do not have proof this happened. I'm merely going off of the conversation that happened on Twitter as a response to this Sam Grafton tweet. You have just won $5.1 million in a poker tournament you won a free $30,000 package for. How much do you tip? A, $50,000. B, $10,000. C, $0. D, $100,000. So what Sam's doing here is he's making fun of this guy because he won a free $5 million, or quote, a free $5 million, and did not tip the dealers for the victory. Now, a lot of people in response to this were upset with Sam for tip shaming, as the term people are using, someone that didn't tip the dealers. So the question becomes, was it acceptable for Sam to tweet this after Kalilis' victory? And was it acceptable for Kalilis to tip nothing? The answer to both those things is probably no. Probably. In Kalilis' defense, I do think that the way that tipping works is a little bit stupid in that it's unclear exactly how much you should be tipping. You know, when I win a tournament, I tend to tip fairly small because I don't view it as a percentage of my winnings. You know, when you have dealers throughout a tournament, they're going to be doing the same job for you, whether you're playing in a $1 million tournament or a $1,000 tournament. So does it really make sense that you tip them like a couple percent of your win? No, not really. You should probably be tipping them a more static amount. Of course, if the buy-in is smaller, there's less room for you to be able to tip people to where you'd be losing money playing the tournament. And so it's sort of tough to reach an equilibrium. But the bottom line here is that I do think you should tip something, but I think the people that think you should tip like, you know, $100,000 or $50,000 or anything like that, I do think that it's a bit excessive because, you know, especially for people that are trying to make a living playing poker, if you start to tip a lot on your wins, well, it cuts into your margins because most tournaments you end up just losing. Now, that also doesn't mean that you shouldn't tip. You know, you should be tipping some amount to the dealers when you win a tournament, particularly in regions where they're not paying the dealers very much. But what makes it a little bit more convoluted is when you have a company like Pokerstars who's taking a fee in their tournament, and usually not a very small fee in their tournaments, and then not paying the dealers enough, putting that onus on the players. That's also a little bit messed up to me. If you want to make sure the dealers get paid appropriately, then as the venue, you should probably be paying the dealers more. However, it's not acceptable for both parties to pass the blame and the dealers don't get paid very much. So the bottom line here is I would generally advocate if you win a tournament to tip. You don't have to tip a ton, but tip something because it means a lot to help the dealers out in those situations. So this guy probably should have tipped here, but the question now is, should Sam have sent out this tweet? And I'm going to actually go ahead and say that I think that it was totally fine. And my logic is this. The guy just won $5 million, okay? He's going to sleep at night in a nicer house now and probably a new bed. He's going to sleep just fine. But anyway, I would say that I think that having these conversations is healthy and good. You know, when we actually talk about these types of things that happen in poker, then we set sort of a baseline of what people can expect, and there's more consistency. You know, if you were a dealer, you'd probably want to know if people tip or not in these situations, because it could have a big impact on your bottom line. If people weren't tipping, you might not want to become a dealer. If they were, maybe you would. And that's not to say that it's, you know, the deciding factor necessarily, but it helps give people more information about the situation. I also think that in poker, people get way too defensive. Look, man, like, the world is a place where people have opinions, okay? They're going to be all over the place. Some people are going to be mean. Some people are going to try to be funny. Some people are going to be really nice. That's just the way that the world works. And so expecting that everyone is very respectful to everyone at all times, because that's how we should be respectful. It's just not realistic, and frankly, it's not very fun. Anyway, I'm interested in your opinion. What do you guys think about this situation? What was acceptable here? Let me know in the comments below. Moving on, you guys might have noticed that I'm looking a little thin. That's right, your boy's been losing some weight. I've actually been on a new diet. I eat the same foods, but then afterwards I check out Daniel Negreanu's Instagram. Oh yeah, and while we're on the subject, I do know that Derail Masterclass ads show up before my videos sometimes. But look, you know, you gotta eat somehow. It all comes full circle. Moving on to our next story, the NYPokerking online room goes under. And I think that the term online room might even be a little bit generous. This is just some guy who set up a place for people to play, no legal backing at all, and doing it in a US jurisdiction. It does sound like ACR, but this is not a very legitimate site. From the get-go, this guy has had some sketchy history, posting pictures of things that maybe weren't his, or trying to lead on that he was balling hard when he wasn't. So he definitely has a little bit of a shady past, and I actually remember messaging with this guy on Instagram a little bit. According to this thread on 2+2, essentially the way that it was working was you could deposit through NYPokerking or some people that worked with him, and then play on this site, and when you wanted to cash out, you could cash out through him. But apparently, for a while now, some people haven't been getting paid. One guy's owed $40,000, another guy's owed about $20,000. Look, guys, in this situation, you should have been sketched out from the get-go. This was obviously a situation that could have gone under. One thing I don't like in poker, though, is victim shaming. You know, people like to attack the guy who gets scammed because I really don't know. It's like easy to attack them. It's kind of like what I see with Tom Dwan in Jungle, and whenever some guy posts a comment that's like, Tom Dwan should scam that little bitch-ass nerd because Tom Dwan's balling way too hard to pay. Fuck Jungle. He doesn't owe him any money, and even if he did owe him money, he didn't because fuck. I love Tom Dwan. Tom, come back to me, Tom. I love you, Tom. Tom, please, Tom.
Dear Dan, I meant to call you sooner. Just been busy.
But in poker, you should be worried about people. There are sketchy characters, and gambling does tend to bring in people that you can't trust. So don't trust people who have these unregulated sites that you're depositing through on the affiliate system. And I know a lot of the Chinese app type sites have the same system set up, and for many people that has worked, but it doesn't mean that it'll always be that way. Now, I'm not saying that you are for sure in trouble if you play in Poker Masters, but here's the thing, guys. Be careful out there and understand there are people who want to take your money. Now, if you want a little more in-depth look, Joe Ingram did a video on the subject. Put a link in the description below. I'd recommend checking it out. Next up, Pokerstars raises the rake. You know, in a world that's always changing, as we grow older and our time runs short, it's nice to know there are things we can count on. The backbones of who we are and where we're headed. Things that day in and day out we can count on. And you know what, guys? From that perspective, maybe more rake is better. Because if there wasn't more rake, what would we know to be true every day? My best shot. It was my best shot I had there. Anyway, that is correct. The PokerStars Sunday Million buy-in has been cut in half, and the rake has been raised. It's gone from a $200 plus $15 tournament to a 100 plus 9. Now, the lower buy-in could have a good effect by letting other recreational players get in there. However, there is now a re-entry added, which I do think on average will make the field stronger. So my guess here is that this will overall make the field maybe about the same. Could go a little bit either direction, but it will increase the amount of money PokerStars takes from the players. Personally, I just feel a little bit sad because the Sunday Million being $200 plus rake or whatever has been the standard for so long. It truly does feel like the end of an era, but Maybe that era passed a long time ago anyway. I also find their wording on this hilarious. They said that for anyone with a $215 Sunday Million ticket, your ticket will be exchanged into $209 Sunday Million tickets on the 25th of January, meaning you will get an extra $3 in value. Wow, that's right, guys. Your $215 tournament ticket will now be worth $209 tickets. But the rake is $18 instead of $15. Free $3 for you. Pretty sweet. It's all part of Pokerstars' new marketing strategy. Slowly take more money from all of the players, and then when they ask why, be like, look over there, it's a tournament. I think they bought it. Our next topic is Eli Elezra on 2+2 doing an Ask Me Anything to support the new book where Eli teamed up with 2+2 in order to promote it and answer some questions from possible fans. It has not gone well. The thread started off with Eli saying, hello 2+2, to help promote my autobiography, Pulling the Trigger, I'm here to answer any questions that anyone may have, so ask away. And they did. They definitely did. Many questions were asked to Eli, but then a lot of ones about his debt started to come to the surface because there's another thread on 2+2 where it has become kind of public knowledge that Eli has owed several people money, including Sean Deeb and Cole South, but has not been paying them. Finally, after many questions, Eli said, Sean and I are on good terms. If you saw us together in the Bahamas playing and chatting, you would understand. Poker players are always lending each other money. I always pay my debts. Shortly after Eli said that, Cole South, otherwise known as CTS, came into the thread to say, I really don't like to get involved in public drama, but I can't stay on the sidelines when I see something like this. Eli borrowed $100K from me during a cash game in Bobby's room on July 15, 2010, toward the end of a long summer where we played a ton against each other and generally got along very well. At the end of the session, one of the most seasoned high-stakes Vegas regs pulled me aside and warned me what I did wasn't a good idea and not to do it again. We didn't cross paths my final few days in Vegas that summer. Over the course of the next year, he was responsive and whittled down the debt from $100K to $40K, a few grand at a time via full tilt transfer, which he still owes me. By summer 2011, he had stopped making payments but was still responsive with plenty of reasons why he couldn't. Since then, he's been basically non-responsive. I've sent him messages every now and then when he's hit a big tournament score and he's ignored them. The only time I got a response was when we were both in Vegas playing the same tournament and he asked me not to make a public scene about it. I still have screenshots of texts and other evidence, but would like to give him a chance to respond before sharing more. For a lot of you guys that are new to poker, or maybe some of you guys who are really old in poker, you might not know who Cole South was, but he was one of the biggest crushers in online poker history. This guy was an absolute legend, and when I was coming up in the game, he's one of the guys that I really looked up to. This is not like some random guy is accusing Eli. This is a really respected and successful player saying that he hasn't been paid with really no reason to lie. I'm not going to lie, the thread gets pretty funny from there, including this image where someone found Eli Elezra while he wasn't responding to any questions in the thread, viewing another thread, which was titled, Viewing Thread Article on Eli Elezra's Mansion, and apparently he owes Sean Deeb and a ton of other people. Awkward. This has put 2+2 in a bit of an awkward situation. Now, 2+2 has put out the best poker books for as long as I can really remember. They were the first books that I read, and they put out really high quality stuff. But for Mason Malmuth now, Eli apparently told him that he'd resolved the situation with Sean Deeb, or that they were on good terms, and so he didn't know that these situations were ongoing. And now that these stories are coming forward about Eli, and 2+2 has already made these books and put money into printing these books, they're kind of committed to making these books, despite the fact that it looks like we got a lot of drama going on about Eli's debts. In full disclosure, I am close with the guys at 2+2, and I'm sure that they'll figure out the best way to move forward. But you do want to also be careful in poker, because when you hear someone has a debt somewhere, a lot of times it's not just one. Given that Cole South posted in the thread, I also reached out to Sean Deeb and asked him what was going on between him and Eli, and he said that payments have been irregular and that he has not been fully paid. So certainly some stuff to dissect here, and I'm sure that thread will have some good moments moving forward. And here at Poker News, we will certainly be staying tuned. That's just about it for today, guys. Before we go, I did want to have a serious moment here for a moment, because last week, the well-known poker player Gavin Smith passed away. And it's not exactly clear what happened at this point, but I just wanted to say that this is a sad moment for the poker community, and I didn't know Gavin Smith very well. From what I heard or what I saw, he looked like a very outgoing and funny dude, and a very genuine character. He was a real guy who didn't always say or do the exact right thing, but he did what he felt was right and what he thought he should do. And, it's sad as you get a little bit older and you see the community get a bit older and you see some people pass away. It's sad to see that. And, I just want to say that I think the poker world will be a little less bright without Gavin in the world. And there was also a GoFundMe set up for his kids. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to donate. If not, that's totally cool too. But if you want to ensure that his kids have money ahead of them for their future, you can do so as well. There's not much to say, guys. Like, it's a sad thing that happened, and I'm just one of those things that as you get older, you have to deal with this stuff. And I didn't really feel like it was the right thing to do to, just make like a full video about it. I didn't know Gavin that well. I remember when I was a kid, I had a friend who passed away. Not like a very close friend, but we hung out a couple times. And I remember this kid passed away, and then all of these people jumped in saying like how they were best friends with the guy. And, even people that hated him. And I always felt like it was just such a fake interaction that, it was upsetting for me at the time. And so as I've gotten older and people have passed away, I guess I try to make sure that like I don't overemphasize what our relationship was like. In fact, one of the only interactions I had with Gavin Smith was last year. We had a weight loss bet that I lost. But he was a funny dude. And it's sad that he's gone now. And I hope that he's in a better place. That's going to be it here from me, guys. I'm planning on doing a video every week on Tuesday. So I'll see you back next week. Thanks for joining us.